What is going on, my Jets family? I want to thank you, like always, for tuning in to the Take Flight Spit and Fire podcast. Now, we got a special edition today on this Thursday evening. As you know, the sun's still out. A little different. Usually I bring it to you guys at night. But I wanted to bring you guys, some highlights, some stuff going on with camp. So we're going to get into some training camp highlights, some updates, things going on in camp, news we've heard, things from Robert Saleh, from other, media availability from certain players, and just, news in general from camp. But yes, I see people coming in again. I want to thank you guys for tuning into this special edition of the Take Flight Spit and Fire podcast. So we're going to jump right in and start with an injury update, because injury update is always, good and important to talk about. And unfortunately, we've had a couple since we last spoke. So this week, unfortunately, we had a pretty decent injury with Cameron Clark, an offensive lineman. It was scary at first, as you guys know, who are following the story on Twitter, on whatever, we were following it on. The injury actually happened across the field. So we knew it was a backup offensive lineman at first, but we didn't know who. Turned out it was Cameron Clark. And as you guys remember, he was a guy I was really high on, especially when the pads went on. Because as we talked about, there were a lot of offensive linemen that I liked later in the draft, in this last draft. And Joe Douglas, though we went offensive line with those, first couple of picks, nailed it. Getting our, Pro Bowl potential guard, Elijah Moore, running back, quarterback of the future, but went defense with all those other picks. So it led me to believe he believes in the guys we have. And one of them might have been Cameron Clark. Remember, I told you guys, what I loved about him was he was kind of almost like a mini Becton. When Joe Douglas drafted him, he literally said he drafted him for his nasty streak and the way he finishes people. He puts people down. Thankfully, it's not a horrible, horrible injury. At first, it was scary because, as you guys remember, it was player down, stretcher on the field, then ambulance. We find out an ambulance is coming to the field. But as we found out from Cameron Clark's father, Al Clark, he's told ESPN that his son is now fine. He had no spinal cord damage, and it is, according to the Jets, I have it in front of me right here, it is classified as a, my apologies, I had it right, here we go. It is classified as a spinal cord contusion, but he is expected to make a full recovery. So it sucks, and it's devastating because, as we talked about, this was a guy, out of all the young offensive linemen that we liked, this was a guy that had a lot of potential. He was a draft pick, 4th-round guy. Again, we talked about his nasty streak. I remember I mentioned to you guys, what offensive linemen, now it takes sometimes a year to, progress, get used to systems. I was excited to see, how he was going to do, but unfortunately, this had happened. But I just want to, say that it is important that though he did suffer a spinal cord contusion and he was taken off in an ambulance, his father and everyone says he's fine and he's expected to make a full recovery. So that is huge. Other injury updates to get you on with is, as we saw yesterday, and this is a huge one, AVT, Alahia Vera Tucker, our, potential future Pro Bowl guard. The guys I told you about to think of when you think of Quinn and Nelson, the caliber guys we're talking about here. He was out yesterday and was sitting out, and people didn't know why. Now, today, it was announced, according to Rich Cimini, that, and again, I heard it from them, so according to Rich Cimini, he has a strained pectoral muscle, and it's not, a terrible injury, and he's considered day-to-day. So that's huge. That's huge news right off the bat, because we were afraid. Like yesterday, he wasn't, obviously it wasn't like a Cameron Clark injury, but he was out. And it is AVT. I mean, this is the guy, like we said, the guy we traded up to get, this best lineman, basically. We want to see him play. We were nervous. So he was out of practice yesterday, in today, but again, it's a strained pectoral muscle, nothing serious. He's day to day. And that's important because that shows, just like with Mekhi Becton, this is cautionary. They're just being smart. This isn't game time. If it was a game and maybe, we're playing not preseason, but if it was a regular season game coming up, Sunday, maybe he'd want to push through. Maybe, he'd be ready for the game. But we're not at that point. So he's obviously the starter. Let him get better. So it's a strained pec. Not a big deal. Nothing to really worry about. Couple of other injuries we saw today. Unfortunately, we saw Alex Lewis as well as John Franklin Myers go down. Quick injury updates Robert Saleh gave us after the practice in his press conference. He said that John Franklin Myers suffered a shoulder injury, Alex Lewis suffered a head injury, and Dan Brown, the tight end, suffered a hamstring injury. Nothing else has been disclosed yet, as I've seen, unless anything news come out in the last 2 hours. In the last 2 hours, nothing new. That these are the injuries they have, and nothing has been disclosed yet. As I'm going through this, guys, again, if you want to, bring your comments, I see a bunch of you guys in there. Jeremy, appreciate you, bro. What's up, brother? They're being cautious. He points it out. They're being cautious. And again, it's smart. It's the same thing like what happened with Mackay. Remember, first people were freaking out about the injury in his weight. And that was just a way for people to, that wanted to make a comment on his weight, be able to make a comment on his weight. That's all that was. We've talked about, and I talked about, people get plantar fasciitis all the time. People get that the way 150 pounds, 200 pounds, 350 pounds, Mackay Becton size. It's a little more dangerous for someone his size, but that's why they took it easy, like Jeremy said. Being cautious, being smart. It's what they're doing with AVT. It makes sense. So AVT, again, it's a strained pec. It's not great, but it's going to get better. It's easily, probably, they said day to day. He didn't practice at all yesterday, and he didn't practice at all today. I wouldn't be surprised if he's not in practice tomorrow. He'll be in Monday. Because, again, it's just a strained pec. So he got yesterday to, heal. He's had today. If he doesn't practice tomorrow, it gives him tomorrow and the weekend. He'll be out there probably Monday. It makes sense. So, again, we're just being precautious, okay? That's it. And as we know, we got the preseason game tonight, which is fun. We got our first football. Football is back, baby. Football is back. So that's exciting. So we got our first game tonight, but it's just one game. The Jets and other teams don't start playing until next week. So it makes sense to be precautious. It makes sense to be smart. Again, this is AVT. This is not, a guy that's trying to make the team here. We traded up for a reason to get him. Let him get right. Let him get healthy. Yeah. Excuse me. So I believe that is it for the injury updates. Yes. So I'm going to move on to our next segment now, which is Zach Wilson. And we've noticed it a lot, and I tweeted it out too, because a couple of people, made that comment about how, hey, Zach looked amazing on Saturday, and he did. He made that amazing deep throw to Elijah Moore. He had a great throw to Denzel Mims. He looked poised. He had great pocket presence. It was awesome. The other days, I think it was, I believe it was Tuesday that I think people felt that he struggled a decent bit. Threw a pick, wasn't looking as good. Then, I think that was Monday. And then today he looked good as well. So people are asking, that's how it's going to be. So the message here is Zach Wilson is a rookie. Up and downs are to be expected. Remember, this is not the situation we had before. The situation we had before was different. That was a quarterback that was going into his fourth year, a quarterback that had been in the league. And yes, he didn't have good coaching. He didn't have a team, everything not working for him. But it was a quarterback who'd been in the league multiple years. It was time to basically, for lack of a better expression, shit or get off the pot. Right? That's what it was. This is a rookie quarterback. Remember, we talked about the reset. That was the biggest thing everyone talked about. The rookie reset, the clock reset. Well, if that's the case, guess what? Your mentality has to reset too. This is a rookie quarterback. My recommendation to everybody is to tell yourself that like 10 times. It just helps, because Zach Wilson, I felt, is going to be amazing, and he is showing it. There are times where he just looks unbelievable. So it's understandable to, get your hopes up really, really high, and then when there's a bad one, it brings you down. But again, say it 10 times. Zach Wilson is a rookie quarterback. He's a rookie. Remember, the reset. We wanted the reset. We got the reset. Now we have to, there's going to be a process. I don't have the exact quote in front of me, but Zach had said it himself. Again, as you guys know, on my Twitter, I try to, bring you as much of the media coverage as I can. Bring you guys, the players and interviews with Zach and Corey. And I brought you one with Morgan Moses. I try to bring you as many as I can. I don't have it in front of me, but there was one with Zach where he basically said that, that things are going well. Things are looking good. We're making progress, but, we're not there yet. And that's how it's supposed to be. I mean, yeah, we want him to be just, this, oh my God, he's there already. Week 1, 400 yards, 4 touchdowns. He's the savior. I love that. I hope it happens. It usually doesn't work like that. So again, back to this over here, Zach Wilson is a rookie. So he's going to have great practices, and he's going to have good practices, and he's going to have bad practices, and he's going to have great throws that look amazing, and he's going to have okay throws, and then he's going to have throws like, I think today where he threw the interception. It's going to happen. He's a rookie. The important thing is he progressing? Is he getting better? Is he making those same mistakes? And if you, as again, I told you, I bring you guys, as much media coverage as I can. I try to bring all the interviews to you guys. The consensus among the coaches is he is learning. That's Zach's biggest trait. They say that he loves learning. Remember, he's a film junkie. He studies the game. Remember, they talked about, just going through all the, press conferences in my head with Zach Wilson. They said when, something happens, he wants to know why it went wrong. He wants to know what the breakdown was. He wants to fix it and make it better. He's a perfectionist is a word they use. And I think I mentioned it in my last podcast. I don't want to compare him to Tom Brady because I don't like Tom Brady. But it's a hell of a person to compare him to. I don't like him, but the guy's won 9 Super Bowls. Whether we like it or not, we have to accept it. So he's a perfectionist. He's always working all the time to, get better. And that's Zach. Remember when all those rumors were coming out, I was talking about how he's a film junkie. He loves the game. He studies the game. He's a student of the game. That is everything about him that he wants to learn. So we just need to make sure that he's getting better. He's making better reads, making better progressions, learning from his mistakes, not making them again. The team is progressing. So again, it's not going to be overnight. Zach Wilson is a rookie. Up and downs are to be expected. So next segment I want to bring you guys is our new quarterback. Because again, since I was last with you guys, he wasn't here yet. So we signed Josh Johnson, and there was a lot of mixed feelings for him. I wasn't the biggest fan, and I'm going to tell you guys why. I mean, yes, he's a veteran presence, but that's it. That's it. He's an older guy, but that's it. I mean, he's a veteran in the sense that he's old. That's it. Because let's look at this for a sec. Josh Johnson is a 35-year-old quarterback who has never thrown for more than 685 yards and 4 touchdowns in a single season, a whole season. 685 yards and 4 touchdowns. He's only started 8 games ever. He's only started 4 games in the last decade. He hasn't played since 2008. Before that, he hasn't played since 2013. And his career stats, overall for the decade plus he's been in the league, is 1,632 yards, 8 touchdowns, and 14 interceptions. So again, I come back to the point where I say, that Josh Johnson is a veteran in the sense that he's old. That's it. He's an older guy. He's 35. He's seen things. He's been around, but I mean, look at those numbers. I mean, just look at the things I just went through. So my big take on it is James Morgan hasn't looked that great. He really hasn't. I mean, he's starting to shine a little bit. But as you guys remember, I brought it up my last podcast. One of my segments was Mike White, QB2. And you guys remember I was talking about Mike White before training camp started. I was talking about, remember, his football intelligence, his IQ, how important that is to have in a quarterback. And so I liked him so much more. I felt like he was slept on in the draft in 2018. I liked him. You guys remember, we talked all about it with Mike White. But with James Morgan, if he doesn't show it all, Josh Johnson could beat him out for being an older guy alone. Again, the experience is nothing. We mentioned, again, not playing in the last 2 years. Before that, hasn't played since 2013. All those stats, 1,600 total yards, never more than 600 a season. Yeah, it's not good, but he is a veteran. He is an older guy. So if James Morgan doesn't really show, I think he'll beat him out. But as you guys know, my big take is I think Mike White is still going to be QB2. I still think unless Josh Johnson has something that he hasn't decided to show anybody in the last 12, 13 years, I think Mike White can be the guy. I think he hasn't gotten opportunities. And he didn't get an opportunity at Miami. He really didn't, and he was let go. I talked about his football IQ. It's going to be interesting to see that. So Johnson's now on the team. Again, my take is unless Morgan really does something and shows well, better than he has been, I think Johnson beats him out. I think it's going to be him, Johnson, and Mike White. But again, you've heard it, heard it here first. I don't know anyone that was saying it before training camp. I've been talking about Mike White. I still think he can be QB2. So that is my take on that. I see you guys in the comments. Again, appreciate all you guys. Braden says, hey, Harrison, exciting times. It is exciting times. If you guys are just tuning in now, we were just talking about Zach Wilson. This is exciting times, man. This is great. There's so many more segments to get into. Again, I'm bringing you guys all the training camp updates, the recap, what's been going on, the big news, any highlights and stuff. But the next one is the story I've been waiting to get into. This is the story I've been waiting for. And the story I've been waiting for is Carl Lawson and Elijah Moore. Like, let's hear it, guys, for Carl Lawson and Elijah Moore. Like, these guys are just killing it every day. They bring their A game and then some. They just look amazing. When we got Carl Lawson, remember, I talked about all the stats. That the sack numbers weren't there, but the QB knockdowns tied with TJ Watt, first in the NFL with 15 sacks, TJ Watt. He's tied with him. He has 64 QB hurries. His numbers are high, and he's a beast. Remember, going back to, all those media coverage that's how you guys bring you, Robert Saleh, I don't have the direct quote in front of me, but he basically said that, when you look at Carl Lawson, you don't look at him as like a prototypical edge rusher. He literally said he doesn't check any of the boxes. But he's an unbelievable player, unbelievable motor, and still gets to the quarterback all the time. The guy is a beast. He's an absolute monster. We were looking at free agent edge rushers, and Lawson posted the image of him just working out, just beasting it. So, man, this guy, we haven't had a good edge rusher in a long time. And now I'm going to get into that in kind of the next segment. But we haven't had a good edge rusher in a long time. And, man, having Carl Lawson is huge. I was talking about, how excited I was about what he can do. We're seeing it right now. In camp, if you guys, I'm assuming all you guys have heard it, every day we hear Carl Lawson and Elijah Moore's names. Every day. Carl Lawson and Elijah Moore, like 4 times a day. It's honestly like 4 times. But Carl Lawson, once a day, really kind of twice a day minimum in the backfield. In fact, I remember there was one play, you kind of used making a joke out of it. Lawson got back there so fast, he just put his hands behind his back and decided to chill and wait for Zach to keep going through his progressions. Like, dude, he's an awesome guy. We see him in interviews. He's sweet. He's nice. He cares. He's a good person. But he's an amazing player. He's an absolutely amazing player. And I love it, man. Like, like you guys, I was so excited when we got him for the potential of what he can be. And I'm going to, get into like how long we haven't had an edge rusher, next. But man, we're seeing it in camp just every day. Every day, Carl Lawson is consistently in the backfield, consistently, and multiple times. Remember, again, with the media, one of the interviews with Carl Lawson was when they asked him about last year, he said he felt he left 100 sacks on the field because in his opinion, he should be in the backfield every play. I was like, oh my God, Carl Lawson, oh my God. Like, that's an answer, man. This guy wants to be great. And we talked about it. If you remove the sack numbers, he's elite. Like, he's as good as anybody. So just like, remember, I gave you guys the comparison with Shaq Barrett, how, it didn't translate till he got to the next team. This is what's going to happen. Same thing's going to happen. Now let's talk about Elijah Moore. Man, Elijah Moore, just like Carl Lawson, every day. Every day we're hearing about him. Every day he's looking unbelievable. And just like Lawson, remember we were hearing about them in OTAs. We were hearing about them in minicamp. We were consistently hearing about them. And now that the pads are on, we're only hearing about them more. Because these two guys, superstars, where we go? Right here. Superstars. Both of these guys. Carl Lawson is basically there, and Elijah Moore is going to show everybody that he is. It's great, man. Moore, we hear his name, like we said, all the time. Remember, I pointed out, you guys remember the stats on Elijah Moore? Best slot wide receiver in college football, period. Arguably one of the best wide receivers, period. Never dropped a red zone target ever. This guy's just unbelievable. He has a rookie, as we talked about. Remember, I joked about it, but it's true. Elijah Moore is probably the best route runner on this team. And he's a rookie. And he is probably the best route runner on this team. So, Elijah Moore, man, every day we're hearing about him, to the point where even PFF tweeted out yesterday which duo is going to be more dynamic this year. And they show Zach Wilson and Elijah Moore. Elijah Moore has superstar written all over him. He's making every play, every catch. In fact, he's even lining up outside. And the example I give is like a T.Y. Hilton. T.Y. Hilton's only about 5'8", 5'9". They told him he was too small to line up outside. If you're great, it doesn't matter. And I believe it was even, again, I told you guys, I bring you guys all the media. I don't remember. I think it was today, I believe. Robert Saleh literally said that we don't get caught up on the height of this guy or the height of that guy. We look at the play. We look at what they can do on the field. So just dominating. Two of them just dominating everything we wanted them to be, everything we hoped they would be, and so far, everything we thought they would be. And it leads me into the next section where I talked about how we're just not used to it. We're just not used to it. And we talk about Carl Lawson. I mentioned it, when it happened, we haven't had an edge rusher of this potential since John Abraham. I mean, Calvin Pace was good, but we didn't have him his whole career, and he only had one season. I believe it was only one, if I'm correct, with double-digit sacks. Carl Lawson, the ability, again, we talk about the numbers, putting up stats equivalent to TJ Watt, guys with 15 sacks a season. Again, the Shaq Barrett example is the best one I can give. Low sack numbers when he's with the Broncos, gets to Tampa Bay, light switches on because he's always been an elite player. Remember, we said it about Leonard Williams. Great player, the production just wasn't there. The same thing's true about Lawson. And I think, again, the reason we're freaking out, and I'm freaking out, dude. I'm with you guys. Every time I hear Carl Lawson, I'm like, Carl Lawson. This is great. I hear his name, at least twice a day, we're hearing his name. And it's because we're not used to it. Other teams have had great edge rushers. Other teams have had elite edge rushers. We haven't had elite edge rusher since John Abraham. So we're just not used to it, but Carl Lawson is getting us used to it. Again, my favorite part, dude's in the backfield so fast, he's chilling. He's go through your reads. I'm good. I'll just be here. I love it, man. I love it. I love it. So they're just not ready for it. And the same thing with wide receiver. We're not used to it too. Because as you guys remember, I thought back, wide receiver with the potential that Elijah Moore has, with what he did in college, being as high a pick as he should have been. Remember, Joe wanted him at 23. Joe said it. Joe's like, this is Christmas morning, man. I wanted him at 23. We got him at 34. He could have gone potentially, I would say, as high as even the top 15. He potentially could have gone somewhere 15 to 20. This is the talent of Elijah Moore, really is. And as you guys know, shout out to Connor Hughes. He actually, just quick shout out with him and Elijah Moore in an interview, I believe it was yesterday. Elijah Moore said he literally wrote down the names of every wide receiver that was drafted ahead of him. Every single one. He has them written down and he looks at them every morning. I'm like, he wants to be great. He wants to be great. He wants to prove everybody wrong. And as we know, he's so dedicated. He's what you want. The kid is an incredibly religious person. He's very centered. He cares about family, cares about commitment. He's got great integrity. Everything just checks all the boxes. Just check, 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 check. Even off the field, just check, 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 check. It's wonderful. And we're just not used to it. Because I go back, we've only had 2 first-round wide receivers that you could argue are the potential of Elijah Moore in our last 20-something years, 20-plus-something years. One, Santana Moss, and Santana Moss never broke 1,000 yards in college. Check it out. I mean, he was a first-round pick, but he never broke 1,000 yards in college. Elijah Moore broke 1,000 yards deuce twice. So I have to go all the way back to 1996. I have to go all the way back to when the Jets drafted Keyshawn Johnson first overall. That's what we're talking about here. Carl Lawson, last time we had a guy of that talent, 20 years. John Abraham. Elijah Moore, last time we had a guy of that talent, 1996. Keyshawn Johnson. This is what we're talking about. We're just not used to it, but we're going to get used to it. We're going to get used to it because of Joe Douglas. Joe Douglas is going to keep bringing in the right people. And unfortunately, remember, I talked about it with you guys back when in 2020, when I was all excited for free agency and we didn't do anything. And I had to realize and remember that good teams build through drafts. And I had to realize that I've been preconditioned to love free agency because that's what our idiot GMs did. It's the same situation right here. We're just not used to this. We're just not used to it. We're going to get used to it. Joe Douglas is going to keep bringing in these guys. I feel like Bryce Huff was one. Remember, I told you guys last year, he's flashing now, but as you guys remember, I told you last year when we first got him, remember I said I watched him in the Cotton Bowl. I thought he was excellent. I thought he should have been drafted. He has excellent edge rushing potential. And as of now, he's running with the ones. I thought it'd be Vinny Curry. Because remember, John Franklin said he's got the fastest get off he's ever seen. So Curry, Obviously, Lawson, Huff showing up. We're going to find out. We're going to get used to this. We are. And that's the beauty of it, man. That's the absolute beauty of it. So, moving on to our next segment, the running back committee. That's an interesting one. So, as you guys know, I've had my takes on the running back committee of, like who I think it should be. What's interesting though is, again, I mentioned, the media coverage I bring you guys. I brought you guys a tweet, I believe it was yesterday, of Mike LaFleur, our offensive coordinator. He goes into detail and talks about all the attributes and skill sets he likes in each of them, which if you haven't seen it, please check it out. It is very interesting. He talks about Coleman and what he likes and what he sees, and Carter and oh, I'm having a brain fart. And Johnson. And it's very interesting. And Pirine, he gets into all the stats. But here's what's interesting. I could be looking too much into it. It's very possible. I say that. I could be looking too much into it. But and again, please check out the video. Based on the way he says it, based on the way he delivers the names and how long he talks about each of them. First, he mentions Coleman because he's like, of course, I know Coleman and me have history. So he talks about Coleman. Then he mentions Johnson, talks about him for a little bit. Then he mentions Carter and talks about him for a little bit. Then he mentions Pirine. Now, as you guys remember, I thought Josh Adams could be the guy. Remember, I pointed out how out of his 166 yards last year, 106 of them were after contact. This guy is a power back by definition. Most of the yards are after contact. It's crazy. You got to wait till the pads go on to see what this kid can do. So I really thought he could be the guy. But again, just going off what LaFleur said, he next talks about Pirine and talks about him for a decent bit. Then he mentions Walter. He mentions Walter before he even mentions Josh Adams, which that kind of surprised the heck out of me. So he mentions Walter first and says something short. Then he mentions Adams and says something short. So my take of that, and again, I don't think I might be looking too into it, but just based on, again, how he mentioned those four guys first, talked in detail, then mentioned those guys next and said like 3 words. For my take now is I believe Josh Adams and Austin Walter are on the outside looking in, and the backfield committee is going to be between Carter, Coleman, Johnson, and Pirine. And remember, I thought Adams would be the guy over Pirine, but remember, Saleh said how he thought Pirine was his power back when I thought Adams was the power back. If these guys want Pirine, that's great. I believe, and that's the point. We have to believe in this system. I believe in, what they're doing. If they want Pirine, then Pirine's the guy. So that's my take on it right now. Just based on, what we've seen, what we've, looked at with the bulk of the carries that they've been taking and that specific interview. I believe right now, Josh Adams and Austin Walter are on the outside looking in, and it's a 4 backfield committee between Coleman, Carter, Johnson, and Pirine. Okay, so that is my take on the running back committee. So quickly, we're going to talk a little bit about the wide receiver 2 position because that's been interesting. As you guys know, Keelan Cole was running with the ones for a long time. Remember, I had my article on it, my take on it, how the beat writers were pointing out that he was a better fit for the system, that Mims was more of a linear player. Cole's an excellent route runner. He wants it really bad. But an interesting guy coming on is Vincent Smith. And I want to take a sec to talk about him. So Vincent Smith was an undrafted player out of Limestone. So kind of from nowhere. But in 2019, when he played for us, again, he was around the league in 2018, but we got him in 2019, and he looked pretty good. He played in 13 games. He had 225 yards, averaged 13.2 yards per catch. That's not bad. And as you remember, he was fast. If you don't remember, he was number 17. Think of number 17 in the last 2 years. He played in 2019, and he was good. He had a couple of really big plays. He looked good. He had good hands, and he's fast. Again, he's really, really fast. Like, I don't have it in front of me, but like high 4.3s, like 4.38 fast, like something like that, like fast. So last year, if you guys may remember, he suffered a bad injury. In fact, he suffered a gruesome injury. Vincent Smith, I remember I was like cringing with it. Remember, he's the one, and this might, like, even if you don't remember who he is, you might remember like this. He's the guy that tore his abdomen muscles off of his core. That's who Vincent Smith is. He's the one who last year got such a gruesome injury in the beginning of the season and preseason that he tore his abdomen muscles off of his core. They physically came off. So he had to miss basically I believe he missed the whole season. So he shined a little bit in 2019. We're seeing a little bit from him now. Again, he's fast. The take from Connor Hughes is he's been working with the twos, just like Keelan Cole. That right now we seem to have a three-way rotation between Keelan Cole, Denzel Mims, and Vincent Smith. And as you guys remember, my take was who wants it more? If another guy wants to jump in the mix, hell, we'll find it. Let's add another slash and put Jeff Smith or something. Whoever wants it. If you want it, come get it. Remember, that was my big take. If Vincent Smith wants it, come get it. If you can be good enough to be a wide receiver 2 over Mims and Cole, that's great. Remember, guys, a lot of people are thinking, like I was originally thinking, Mims was a high pick, which he was. Mims was a high pick. He was a second-round pick last year, which is true. But if Keelan Cole turns out to be amazing, if Vincent Smith somehow puts up 800-something thousand yards, come on, guys, let's be honest, we're not going to care. It will be what it is. We want to see our team succeed. We want to see them win. We want to see the right guys in place. So as much as I like Mims, remember, my take was who wants it more? Step the hell up and earn it. Come get it. This is your chance. Come and get it. Vincent Smith wants it. He clearly wants it. He's playing hard. He's earning the opportunity. Well, come get it. That's simple. So, like I said, I know people are upset about Mims, but if Keelan Cole turns out to be absolutely amazing and we sign him long-term, let's say, no one's going to care. And that's the truth. Whoever wants it has to come and get it. And it's that simple. So, moving on to the tight end situation, which is interesting because, as you guys remember, I was kind of, not only was I not high on Herndon, I was saying, that he could be a surprise cut. Because remember, in OTAs and minicamp, he didn't look good. Remember, he had multiple drops. We kept hearing it from all the beat writers. Herndon drop, to the point where after a week, Herndon's running with the twos. Then we're hearing that Herndon's consistently running with the twos. So you guys remember my take. You got Ryan Griffin and Tyler Croft. Croft is an excellent blocker, especially in the pass game. You have Ryan Griffin, like we said, Wesco showing a little bit, and he's an excellent blocker. Remember, my fear was if you're afraid Kenny Yeboah is not going to make it through waivers, which again, second best wide receiver on Ole Miss behind Elijah Moore, over 500 yards, he might not. He could have been drafted. So I thought Herndon could be a surprise cut. But remember what I said. Remember, I said before training camp started, I sent a message basically out to Chris Herndon. Remember, I said, Chris, this is my message to you. Earn it. Right? Once the pads go on, earn it. Come out, make some noise. And as you guys can see here and have heard from, the beat writers in camp, or maybe you've seen because you've gone to some open practices, that's exactly what's happening. I challenged him. Remember, I said, Chris Herndon, I think you could be a surprise cut. If you want it, it's just like the wide receiver too. It's just like Keelan Cole, Denzel Mims, Vincent Smith. Come get it. If you want it, come get it. So my message to Chris Herndon was come get it. And that's what he's doing. Since the pads have gone on, I've heard his name a lot. I've heard his name more than any other tight end, and that's true. Since the pads have gone on, I have heard Herndon's name more than anybody. So remember, my big take was Herndon's in a contract year, right? Herndon's in that year like Corey Davis was last year when he had a career year. He had a career year because he wants to get paid. He wants to make the money. If Herndon's in a career year, and he can't make it happen, that's it. I mean, that's all she wrote. Like, this is the opportunity where you're supposed to come in and, make your money. One sec, guys. You guys know that, and that was my big thing. You're in a contract year. If you're not going to step up now, you're never going to step up. But once the pads went on, he's been showing up. So Chris Herndon, since the pads went on, have gotten the most attention of any of the tight ends, and he's making good plays and good catches. And remember, we need our rookie quarterback to have as many weapons as possible. We need Zach Wilson to have as many options as he can. So people say, I hate Chris Herndon. I don't hate Chris Herndon in any way, shape, or form. If he wants to be the guy, God bless you. If you're going to be Zach Wilson's tight end option and step up, I'm all for it. But you have to step up. And that's what he's doing right now. So again, since the pads went on, Chris Herndon is making the most noise. He's getting the most catches. He doesn't have that many drops. He's looking good, and he's making plays. So this is going to be interesting to monitor and interesting to keep your eye on. So checking out some of your guys' comments, seeing what you guys put in here. I appreciate all you guys. We got more, more stuff to go through as well. But just take a minute to go through. Shout out, I see Matthias in here. I see Kevin. Shout out to Steven, Jeremy, Harry, Braden, Grant. Appreciate you, brother. Appreciate all you guys. So Matthias says it the best, man. Elijah Moore is sick. He's got speed. He's got the hands. He's got the chemistry with Zach already. I can't wait to see them together. And as you guys remember, Zach had said it in his interview, and I had tweeted that out because I felt like that needed to be remembered. Remember, they asked Zach about getting together with his guys, before, camp had started. And he's like, yeah, we got a house. We got together. We hung out. We practiced. And then they also had practice before camp started. But that's huge. Our rookie quarterback is a leader. He's stepping up into that leader position, and he's already building that chemistry with these players. So that's just so exciting. Aaron talks about he's ready to see who steps up in the first preseason game. Preseason's fun, man. Preseason's interesting. As remember, I pointed out, we're not going to get into it again because I've gone into it about 7 times. But anyone who thinks preseason shouldn't be there is crazy. You need to see what your team does against real competition. And not just that, we're going to see who shows and who doesn't. A lot of guys can look good against their own team. As we know, the issue in 2020 was we had a subpar offense going against a subpar defense. So when they played each other, it didn't look that bad. But now we got the defense, bro, and we see it. We got Carl Lawson back there. Like we talked about with Carl Lawson just dominating. He's back there almost every play. He's back there. He's consistently back there every single day. Him and Elijah Moore, nonstop do we hear about them. So this is really, really exciting, man. So just look at some of the other guys' comments. Grant makes a good point. I want to shout out to Grant here. He makes a fantastic point. He says, a lot of people are jacked up for Corey Davis, and why shouldn't you be? Remember, my big take with Corey Davis was not just to see a really good wide receiver 1 option, he's a great upgrade. Like, we have to remember, last year, our wide receiver 1 was Brashad Perriman. Our wide receiver 1 was a guy that had 50% drops. This guy couldn't catch anything. It was like his hands were a basket, and they were just going right through it. So like he says, ask Titan fans how they felt about him after 2 years. Some guys take a little longer than others, and it's true. Remember, I pointed out when Corey Davis was drafted, he was the 5th overall pick for a reason. He was insane at Western Michigan. He broke college football. He still holds the record for the most receiving yards with like 5,200 something, and second most touchdowns with like, I believe, 52. He wasn't great, those first 2 years. He was okay. He wasn't bad, but he started to look good in his 3rd year. And in his contract year, again, Chris Herndon, his contract year is when he really stepped up and made his money and earned his opportunity. James points out, I really hope Herndon could be our Kittle, man. I wouldn't go that far. I mean, I feel like if Herndon was going to do that, it would have been a long time ago. Unfortunately. I mean, it sucks. It is what it is. I don't think, can Herndon be good? I think he can maybe be good, but I think we have to set the expectation away from great. You know what I mean? We can't think like, this is a guy that had an okay rookie year. We had a lot of potential we were excited about. Then in his sophomore year, he had, remember, the stupid suspension that he got, and then he got injured after his suspension. And then last year, he didn't show up. When he was on the field, he looked okay, but he wasn't showing up in practice or on the field. So I'm okay with good, honestly. And I would honestly say, after I look at all these positions now, at what we've done at corner, at the competition we have at CB2 that we're going to talk about, at the linebacker position with Nasruddin, I legitimately think tight end is one of our weakest positions, if not the weakest. Tight end could be the weakest position on our team. So I wouldn't go that far, James. I wouldn't say if he could be, a guy that could put up 400 and change 500 yards, then I'll be okay. That's, I think, what we need to expect for him. I think greatness at this point, that ship has unfortunately come and sailed. You make a good point. I will say. So James makes a good point. He says, in this system, Herndon might develop into a true tight end. You know what? I always say it. I hope I'm wrong. I always say it, man. I mean, if I'm wrong, that means we're winning, and it's great. I'm cool with that. If I'm wrong, that's awesome. I hope I'm wrong. I really, really do. My take is, again, I think he can be good. I mean, he can maybe, and it's kind of maybe at this point because we still don't know, but maybe he can be good. But I just don't see like a Kittle, a kind of guy of that kind of talent level. Aaron says if we have the chance, we try and get Ertz. Ertz, guys, people got to remember, I mean, he's not what he used to be. He was phenomenal for so many years, but last year he had a very pedestrian season. We don't know what we're getting. You have to trade to get Ertz. You have to trade. It's the same thing with Nick Foles. Think about what Joe Douglas does. Joe Douglas accumulates draft picks. Joe Douglas collects draft picks. Joe Douglas is like a squirrel with nuts when it comes to draft picks. That man's just collecting. He's collecting and collecting and getting as many picks as he can. I don't think he'd want to send it away for a guy like Ertz that's over the hill like that. Not when maybe Kenny Yabo could be the guy. Maybe Herndon could be okay. You guys remember I like Tyler Croft. Back to Tyler Croft, I still feel he's one of the better blocking tight ends in this league, which is underappreciated. And back in 2017, he had a fantastic year. In 2017, he was one of the better tight ends in the NFL. He really was. Go check it out. So I don't think that's the right move. I don't think they're going to do that. Matthias laughs at the squirrel with a nut joke, but it's true, man. It's true. It's what I think about. He's hoarding them, bro. He's hoarding them. Joe Douglas is a pick collector. If he's going to trade one, I feel like it's going to be for somebody good. You know what I mean? Like Joe Douglas makes a trade, like just throwing it out there. It's not happening, obviously, but Joe Douglas makes a trade and we get Devonta Adams, like some crazy stuff like that. Like that's the kind of trade I think he would make. I don't think he's giving away picks for a guy, like I said with Ertz, who's over 30 now and had a mediocre season last year. I think he's going to roll the dice with the guys we have. So I see all you guys' comments. I appreciate them. All great stuff. Really appreciate it all, you guys. Just want to go back to some of the segments we were going to go through. So we talked about Chris Herndon. The next segment I'm going to get into, and again, please keep bringing your comments, guys. Please keep bringing the comments. I'm going to go back to them at some point. We'll talk about them some more. CJ Mosley. CJ Mosley is down to 231 pounds. As you guys remember, CJ Mosley was over 250 pounds just 3 years ago. Back in 2018, when he was, with the Ravens, before we got him, he was 250 something pounds. And so was he in 2019 when he had those first couple of games for us. As we know, he hasn't played. As we talked about, remember, I said he's a question mark. From what we've heard, he's back to speed. He looks really good. He looks just like he used to, if not better, is basically what we're hearing. And that he looks 100%. So if that's the case, and if we're getting back to CJ Mosley we saw in 2019, that's huge. But this is huge. So CJ Mosley at 250-something, he was fast. He was a fast, quick linebacker. He was as fast as anybody. We saw in 2019 in that first quarter, really, but we saw in that first quarter what he could do in coverage. He's shed 20 pounds. So you hear it all the time from certain players, especially as they get older. When they, get hurt, they work so much harder to come back better than they were. And that's true because you're playing in such a competitive league. This is the NFL. Most of these guys, like remember Victor Cruz, it didn't work out, but when he tore that knee, he came back at first. It didn't work, unfortunately, but he came back at first with his knee stronger. Teddy Bridgewater, when he came back from his knee injury, he said his knee was stronger. So that's a big thing in this league. If you want to come back from a huge injury, you have to come back better than when you left. And CJ Mosley is down 20 pounds. So that's why I want to talk about this for a second, because that means there's a real possibility that CJ Mosley might be coming back better than he was in 2019. And that's what you need. Because again, he's 2 years out of the league. There's going to be a little rust there. It doesn't look like we're seeing any rust. But again, we haven't seen the preseason. We haven't seen him against real competition. Wait till the regular season starts. There is going to be some rust there. But like we said, if he comes back at that 2019 form, if he comes back at that same level of player, he was already fast. He was already agile. He's down to 231. Man, I'm convinced CJ Mosley might legit be able to cover some wide receivers. Like, that's what I'm starting to think right now. Like, CJ Mosley might be like, yo, give me a big wide receiver. Like put me on Julio Jones. Like me and Julio one-on-one. I'm telling you, man, he was fast at 250. He lost 20 pounds. Man, CJ Mosley has got to be really fast and has got to be really quick. I'm just going to tell you guys got all that right about now. So, yes, again, how's he going to look against real competition? Is he back to the player he was? But the fact that he's down to 231 makes you, again, feel like we talked about all those guys. The ones that came back and continued to play at a high level came back stronger and better than when they were. And Mosley, down 20 pounds, that could definitely be the case. So that's something big to monitor. CJ Mosley ain't 250 something anymore. He's 231. So next thing we're going to talk about, the CB2 position, as well as some big news. So as I told you guys, I try to bring you as much media coverage as I can. I bring you Robert Saleh's press conferences live. So if you check my Twitter as the conference is happening, I bring you quotes and live updates from the actual conference. So I'll bring you guys quotes from the conference, things that are being said, important facts. I bring you guys videos of media availability and quotes from the players. But today, Robert Saleh was asked about the corner situation, and he said, quote, that Isaiah Dunn and Brandon Echols have earned the right to run with the ones. Can't say that. Can't say it. I'm going to try one more time. Isaiah Dunn and Brandon Echols have earned the right to run with the ones. So that's huge. That's really big because, as you know, like Robert Saleh said, remember, his whole big thing was not just about adversity. It's about competition. Nothing is given away. No one gets anything here. Everything's earned. No one is given shit. CJ Mosley didn't come back in and go, oh, here you go. You're middle linebacker one. You're our savior. No, you earned that shit. You earn everything in a Robert Saleh defense. So the fact that Isaiah Dunn, an undrafted rookie who didn't do anything in college. Remember, I mentioned to you guys, he came out of Oregon State, and Oregon State's system was bad. Remember, he was playing in a system where they had 1 win a season, 2 wins a season. They were so bad, they fired their head coach after 1 year. So the feeling was that Isaiah Dunn wasn't unlocked, basically. He wasn't coached up to what he could be. And Joe Douglas believed that because, as we talked about, he made him the highest paid undrafted corner ever. Isaiah Dunn is the highest paid undrafted CB ever, period. So that's huge. And Brandon Echols, remember I pointed out to you guys, dude's fast. Dude runs a 4.35 40. Now he's only 5'10", but he jumps a 42.5-inch vertical. I want you to give yourself a second for that to think in. Just think about that for a second. He's 5'10", but he jumped a 42.5-inch vertical. This dude has got jumps. This dude can get air. So Echols could be an outside guy. Remember, I floated that right when I saw what his vertical thing, what his vertical ability and his speed was. I said, you know, he is the prototypical guy to play in the slot at 5'10", about 180 or so. But he could be an outside guy. Brandon Echols could with that 42.5-inch vertical. Man, he's jumping at 5'10", to give you guys an example if you're not really good with verticals. At 5'10", he's jumping at like a 6'5" guy. He's jumping at like a 6'4", 6'5" guy's jump is what he's doing. Like, that's ridiculous. So even though he's 5'10", he can cover everybody. He can jump as high as anybody. So Echols and Isaiah Dunn, according to Robert Saleh, have earned the right to run with the ones. He didn't mention Jason Pinnock, which I thought was interesting because, as you guys know, I'm huge on Jason Pinnock. I don't have to get into it because you guys know the facts I had. The second I saw the stats, so what he was able to do at Pitt on that island, remember how they play on an island at Pitt? I was blown away. I really did felt like we had another Bryce Hall. That's what I felt like. I really, really did. But as of right now, and again, it's as of right now, though, but as of right now, Bless Austin seems to be the guy. Bless Austin does appear to be the number one CB2. He's getting the majority of reps at the CB2 spot. He's seeing a lot of activity, and he's looked good. He's made a lot of good plays, and he's been getting the majority of the snaps. But like we just said, Isaiah Dunn, and Brandon Echols, Robert Saleh said, have earned the right to run with the ones. So we're going to see this as a 4-way competition now. four-way competition between, I kind of think Lamar Jackson's pretty much kind of out of it now. If Brandon Echols, they're looking at him outside. And the fact that they mentioned him, because I'm going to bring this up in a sec. Robert Saleh next talked about the slot position. And we're going to talk about that. The next thing Robert Saleh talked about was the slot. But he didn't mention Brandon Echols there. He mentioned Brandon Echols here when he talked about Isaiah Dunn. So again, that tells me that Brandon Echols with that 42.5-inch vertical is being looked at as a possible outside cornerback option. So right now it looks like a competition between Bless Austin, Isaiah Dunn, Brandon Echols, and Jason Pinnock. That's what it appears to be now. And the favorite at the moment is Bless Austin, who, as you guys know, I don't know why I'm on his shit list, and it makes me want to cry. I don't know why. Unblock me, man. Unblock me, Bless. I don't know what I did. But Bless, big fan of his. Remember, he was great at Rutgers, really liked his potential. He's a big, long dude. He's a long guy that he's not the fastest guy, but he's long like Hall and can play physically in coverage. Safety help over the top. Remember, that was my big thing with Pinnock. He's not going to keep up with the speed guys. Either put Michael Carter on him or safety help over the top. That's how it works. So that's with the CB2. Now, moving on to the slot. And here's what's interesting. We got a new name in the mix. There. So Robert Saleh today was asked about the slot cornerback position today. And he got into the potential of Michael Carter II, and he got into the potential of Javelin Guidry. But before he did, he started his sentence. When they said, what do you think about the slot cornerback position with Michael Carter and Javelin Guidry? He said, you can throw Elijah Campbell in there too. Okay, then. So we got a new name in the mix. So as we said, Brandon Echols, who we thought would be a slot corner because he's only 5'10", but again, jumps a 42.5-inch vertical, which is just insane for his size. He's being looked at as an outside guy. He's now at that cornerback 2 position, competing with Pinnock, Dunn, and Bless Austin. The inside slot position, as you guys remember, I said I was stoked. You guys, just one sec. As you guys remember, I was stoked about the potential of Michael Carter II in Jav. Remember, I said with Javelin Guidry, he's the reason we didn't sign Brian Poole. You remember all the stats I showed that when Poole came out, Guidry comes in, doesn't miss a beat as an undrafted free agent, grades in a 73 PFF in coverage, just under Poole. But then Michael Carter was an excellent slot option. He looks great too. But before Robert Saleh says anything, he says, you can throw Elijah Campbell in there too. So because of that, we're going to take a minute and we're going to talk to you guys about Elijah Campbell in case you don't know who he is. So Elijah Campbell is a 5'11", 190-pound defensive back. And I say DB because he was originally a safety, but he can also play corner. Elijah Campbell is the true definition of a defensive back in the aspect that he can play corner, but he also can be a safety. He is a true defensive back. So really anywhere in that backfield you want to put him. I originally thought he might be, when we first got him, I don't try to remember who we picked him up from. I honestly can't remember, unfortunately. I apologize, guys. But whoever we picked him up from, I remember he was originally a safety. That's who he was listed. But I look at his speed, his size. He matches up like a corner. So he has that ability to play the corner position. He played for Northern Iowa in college. And last season for the Jets, he was in 3 games. He didn't really do much, but he was technically in 3 games last year. So a little bit about Elijah Campbell. To give you guys, so like I said, what I liked about him, he ran a 4.40. He jumped a 39-inch vertical, which again, to give you guys an example, that's still pretty good. That's why Brandon Echols is freaky. Just keep that in mind. Brandon Echols' vertical is insane. That dude's got ups, and then he has more ups. So when he was drafted as a corner, but I'm pretty sure he signed with the Browns. I'm pretty sure he was an undrafted free agent with the Browns, and he played safety as well. So he is the true definition of what you would call a defensive back. Appreciate you guys in the comments, seeing you guys there. Matthias says this, and this is definitely true. Robert Saleh said that. So again, today I told you guys about the media conferences when they asked Robert Saleh about his CBs. The first thing he said was he wants a guy that can stop it on third down. That was the first thing Robert Saleh said. When they said, what do you look for in your CBs? I want a guy that can stop it on third down. I want a guy. He didn't really get into size. He actually did say, though, that size isn't everything because he said he's had 5'9" guys, longer guys. He does like long, tall CBs. That definitely does seem to be the trend. But from what we've seen from Robert Saleh, like he said today, he'll really take anybody. You know what I mean? If they fit the mold and they play like with me, and that's, again, I love that about him. He doesn't get too caught up in measurables. Measurables aren't the make or break it for him. So, as we said today, though, he mentioned Elijah Campbell in the slot. So again, that's just something interesting to monitor. So again, as we talked about, Brandon Echols is now being viewed as an outside guy, and Elijah Campbell is being viewed as a slot guy. So it looks like a competition in the slot between Michael Carter II, Javelin Guidry, and now Elijah Campbell. And like we talked about, competition's great. Competition's wonderful. Like I mentioned, throw somebody else in who wants it. Who else wants it? If you want it, come get it. I love that there's so many guys that want it, man. I really, really do. Love that so many guys want it. So now that Elijah Campbell's in the mix, that's great. Let's see if he can get it. So now we have 4 guys outside at CB2 who wants it more, 3 guys in the slot who wants it more. So just throwing that out again, that's news for you guys now. Elijah Campbell is now in the mix as a potential slot cornerback for the New York Jets. So before we get going, again, it's been great. I've been with you guys about an hour now. Before we get going, I have 2 more segments I want to bring to you guys, and they're both about coaching. And they're both about our Jets, our coaching, and how important it is. And it starts off with Mike LaFleur and Mike LaFleur scheming to our strengths. So I told you guys about the media and the, press conferences I try to bring you guys. I brought you guys a whole bunch of clips from Mike LaFleur's press conference. In that press conference, one of the biggest ones that stood out to me was this. As we know, this offense was designed by Mike Shanahan. This is the Mike Shanahan wide zone, unique offense. Like we've said, it's not the West Coast. It's unique. It's been altered by Kyle, his son, by Sean McVay, by his brother. Everyone's altered it. So what I love about his answer was Mike said, when they asked him about the offense and what I was just talking about, how it's been, honed and crafted and altered by all these guys. He says, that's what I've learned from my brother, from Kyle, from watching Sean from afar. Everyone's taken it in their own direction, and you do it based on your roster. You try to find the skill set that all these guys have and match that up. Oh, I don't know about you guys, but as you see right down here, what is Mike LaFleur saying? Mike LaFleur is literally saying he schemes to his players' strengths. That's what Mike LaFleur is saying. He's saying that, yes, this is a, unique offense that I'm going to craft, and I'm not just going to pull an Adam Gase and craft whatever the frig I feel like and not care about how my players fit into it. He's going to craft an offense like he just said, again, from his quote, going back to him, everyone's taking it in their own direction based on their roster, which is how it's supposed to be. He literally says in the next sentence, you try to find the skill set that all these guys have and match it all together. Just finally, guys, that's all I have to say here. Just freaking finally, we are scheming to our player strengths. The offense is going to be run correctly because this is how it's supposed to be. Like Matthias says, shout out to Matthias, says, our offense is going to be crazy. The movement is sick. He screens wide receivers open. It's going to be fun to watch. It is going to be fun to watch, man. It is. And just while we're on the concept of talking about the offense quick, what's interesting was, and again, with the press conferences, Jeff Ulbrich gave a statement, and he talked about a bunch of stuff. But what was interesting was they asked him about how his defense matches up against Mike LaFleur's offense. And as a defensive coordinator, he actually gave a really damn good explanation of the offense. So what Jeff Ulbrich, the DC, said was the one thing that's absolutely critical within the Jets offense is speed. Guys that can really stress the edge. If you can get guys overreacting to the run, starting to cross over and go lateral, that's where the play pass comes to life. And he's talking about the play action. So again, he's saying the key to this offense is speed. You can't open up the play action unless your running backs can get to the outside, unless your receivers can cut short. You need speed. And baby, as you guys know, We got the speed with Elijah Moore, with Vincent Smith and his burner ability. Corey Davis ain't no slowpoke. Keelan Cole ain't no slowpoke. Denzel Mims is very fast. We've got the speed. We have that speed. So just throwing that out, that was what Jeff Ulbrich said. He said this offense is basically impossible to stop when they're really fast. And man, we got that really fast. We really, really do. So Matthias also points out a big key is the run game. 100%. In fact, Matthias, 1,000%. Because as well, with the availability, this was back like a month or so ago, before training camp started. But they asked Michael LaFleur, and I've mentioned this one to you guys before, but it's true. They asked Michael LaFleur about the offense and how it works. And again, don't have the direct quote in front of me, but he said that this offense is made or broken with the run game. This offense is created by the run game. He said that the deep ball, the play action pass, can't open up without the run game. So as we saw with Robert Saleh and the 49ers, when he was there, with LaFleur as well, that offense had a great running back committee because it's important. That's how this offense works. So talk to you guys about Mike LaFleur, scheming the player's strengths, which is just so freaking beautiful, guys. So freaking beautiful. I'm going to leave you with something just as beautiful, if not even more beautiful. And that is not just a culture change. In my opinion now, I've talked about it for a while. Remember, I've talked about how we've been in a culture change. It is my opinion now. The culture change is complete. And I have that opinion because of what Morgan Moses said in his media availability the other day. So Morgan Moses in his media availability was asked that, there were other teams that were involved, not just the Jets. Why did you pick the Jets? Oh man, this answer. So Morgan Moses says the first thing that they talked about the Jets, was offensive line and defensive line, that we have to win up front. When you have the mindset from the GM and it trickles down to the head coach that the game is won in the trenches, that's how you start the winning process. That's it, guys. That's it. Morgan Moses has confirmed it. We can say that this culture change, we said it started with Joe Douglas. Robert Saleh was brought in. We have our rookie quarterback. Based on what I'm hearing from Morgan Moses, it's complete. Our culture change is finally complete because we're focusing and emphasizing on the right points. Like Morgan said, the first thing the Jets talked about, like Joe always talks about, remember my philosophy, my mantra has always been that football is won and lost in the trenches. And exactly like he says, exactly like Joe says, first thing they talk about, offensive line and defensive line. But like Morgan said, when you have the mindset from the GM and it trickles down to the head coach that this game is won in the trenches, that's how you start the winning process. And baby, we have that. So if that's how you start the winning process, then this is all I have to say. Culture change complete. So on that beautiful note of a complete culture change, I'm going to throw up some of your guys' comments before we get out of here. James is loving it, man. James says our Jets finally have adult football minds running the organization, starting with the GM, coaches in the trenches, 100%, man, 100%. So I want to thank you guys, like always, for tuning in to this special edition of the Take Flight Spit and Fire podcast. But so many things we talked about. But just remember, our culture change is now complete. And that comes right out of Morgan Moses' mouth. So I want to thank you guys again for being here. I appreciate every single one of you for being here for this special edition of my episode. Thank you again for tuning in. Remember, we're always live every Monday. Please tune in Mondays at 7 p.m. And if you haven't, please subscribe to the channel. Right down below, you guys can see we got the Take Flight Media logo right in the corner over there. Please subscribe to the channel. I'd greatly appreciate it if you haven't. Again, I want to thank you guys for tuning in, and I hope you guys have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your Thursday evening.